we know there's been a lot of protest in America from parents who are not happy with the kind of books that are being shown to very young children. A lot of those books are very explicit. They show things that you shouldn't be showing to kids. It's not because the books depict gay people or trans people.
What age group are they showing it to?
As far as I'm aware, that these kids were like 7, 8 years old, maybe younger, maybe a little bit older, still not acceptable. It's one thing to point out like that, you know, men and women have sex, or men and men or whatever, or women and women, but it's another thing to depict it in such a graphic way and go into so much detail about anal sex and all these sort of things.
Is that what he's doing?
Yeah, there's a lot of things in these books that are completely unacceptable. For as far as I can see, it's been a lot of Christian conservative parents that are standing up against it. Mostly, I mean, there's other people that are not Christian or conservative that don't like it, but the rally seems to be those kinds of people. However, now they have invoked the wrath of Muslims, which is kind of people you don't want to be messing with when it comes to these sort of things. Because the things with Muslims, one thing I've learned with my Muslim friends and Islam is Muslim people are very principled people. They believe what they say. And if you tread on things that they believe in, you will hear from them. I know a lot of Christians that say a lot of things. I'm not shitting on Christians at all, but they're a bit more flippant with their religion. You know, people are a bit more relaxed, especially in this country. You have a lot of Christians that indulge in things that are not, how can we say, holy. I'm not saying Muslims don't do that. I'm not saying
No, but
Muslims.
they're a lot more strict to their religion, like it's...
Yeah. They believe what they're saying. They practice what they preach. For the most part. Okay, no one's perfect, but for the most part, my Muslim brothers and sisters don't fuck about, is what I'm saying. Muslim parents have shown up to a school in America. I'm not sure where it is. I think it might be in Texas. I might be wrong. And they're standing shoulder to shoulder with the Christian parents on this, as far as I'm aware. Nice. And they're not happy with this.
That's going to send a message to everybody. We are not going to tolerate this. The school board to walk out.
As a school board, you allowed someone to stand here for 3 minutes and disparage the Muslim faith. You did not stop it.
Several books once available to students are banned in Dearborn Public Schools tonight.
It follows complaints from parents who believe the content is dangerous. One mom even filed a police report.
You guys went so far that you got Christians and Muslims to stand shoulder to shoulder outside and protest together.
Yeah, it's just all of this stuff is wrong as well, because it's like you're raising children, if you're going to show them stuff, to think and believe that things should be a certain way as well. It is brainwashing, do you know what I'm saying? Because then kids that may not have been thinking a certain way are going to grow up thinking, maybe I want to...
Yeah, and it's explicit content. Like
it's
not age appropriate. That's what people are not understanding here. I have loads of gay friends and I know trans people. I'm friends with a few of them. It's not about the people. It's not about you being gay or trans. This is not age appropriate. It wouldn't be appropriate to show a kid a video from Pornhub. But
this is it. It's why they feel like they have the right to impose this stuff on somebody else's children as well. Is just outright wrong in itself.
They're not your kids.
No.
We send the kids to school to learn the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. We do not send them to school to learn about gender ideology or how to have anal sex or how to penetrate somebody or how to be in a 3-way relationship or any of these things. They're not age appropriate. It's appropriate at a certain age. When you come of age, then you can look into these things. You can explore these things in your own time. No one can control these kids when they go home other than the parents. And if that's a conversation they want to have at home, that is up to the parents. It's not up to the teachers. I understand that there's teachers that have relationships with children. You know, like I had a close relationship with one of my teachers where he acted like he would guide me on certain things, but there's a fine line. If he started talking to me about sex and talking to me about his private life and what he does, that line's been crossed.
Kids of that age, if you think about it, what are they still watching when they're at home? They're still watching cartoons, childish shows. They still want to play. Like, they probably don't even know what they want to be when they grow up. You're trying to discuss things of a sexual nature on kids that don't even know how to properly write a sentence themselves.
Yeah, this screams indoctrination. indoctrination to me. That's what it screams. This is not
Whatever
age
that
appropriate.
word means.
They're basically brainwashing these children.
Yeah.
They're brainwashing them into, it almost seems almost cult-like. There's nothing wrong with being gay. Nothing wrong with being a lesbian. You want to be non-binary, you want to be pansexual, bisexual, all these things, go ahead. But it's not appropriate for a child to be reading those things.
No.
Point blank, period. The same way that we recognize that it's not appropriate for little kids to be playing games like Mortal Kombat, right? You tear someone's head off, right? You pierce someone's stomach, you rip them to shreds. We know it's not appropriate for kids to watch violent films.
Yeah.
We know it's not appropriate for kids to be on Pornhub. We understand all these things. So where did these people get the idea that it was okay to have books in a school for children about anal sex?
Yeah. Most kids, I would probably say probably about 95% of kids that age group don't even know where babies come from, how babies are made. They don't know anything about it.
It's not the right time for them to know. There's a time and place for everything.
Do you know what that will cause? That will cause kids to grow up, in my opinion, and become and shit.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you were going to say that.
Because they're growing up and sex is being embedded in their brain so much that they're just going to want it. It's going to be a norm. And they're not going to know the right times or things like that. Do you know what I'm saying? Or this is where loads of young mums might come into play. Because you're imposing it on kids too young.
It's definitely being imposed on kids too young. I don't know if it would necessarily manifest itself into a violent sex crime. It could. It's definitely not good. This is not a good way to go about things. You might be right. Like you could say that it could be statutory because people that are doing it underage, it is still considered statutory to do something like that. So you might be right. Like they don't have the experience or the tools necessary to deal with conversations like that or understand the severity of having sex with somebody, or understand how, especially for young boys, to understand how to approach a girl with modesty and to, respect her body. And that comes with time, and that comes with them growing up and teaching them over time, not when they're fucking 5 years old, 4 years old, 6 years old, even 8 years old. Like, what is this?
They are going to grow up thinking this is the way they should do things. I feel like they're not being allowed to make their own decisions in life, to grow up and be like, yeah, I like boys or I like girls. It's kind of like they're being educated to think this is the way it should be.
In it, there are actual, and if you read the PDF, which we've done here at Fox 2, it shows you how to have sex with someone else of your same sex. It actually has like diagrams and whatnot.
Pornographic and have absolutely no place in local schools that they support with both their children and their tax dollars.
There's a Edsel Ford sticker on here.
Stephanie Butler says her daughter checked this book out today at Edsel Ford High School. It's titled Flamer. It depicts sexually explicit acts between young boys, some with graphic descriptions.
You know, when you put something in a kid's mind, it makes them want to do it more or try it.
That is exactly the point I'm making. So this was never in their mind before, but now they're going to go off and they're going to be thinking about it and they're going to want to do it.
Yeah. No, you definitely got a point. And did you notice something there?
Go on.
The images were blurred out for YouTube. If I can't look at it on YouTube, what makes you think it's appropriate to be in a kid's library? Are you guys insane? Have you lost the plot or something?
And what's the reason it would be blurred out on YouTube? So young kids don't see it.
Yeah, and the video will probably get taken down because it's inappropriate. If a girl has a nip slip on YouTube, taken down.
Yeah, you can't post any nipples on Instagram, it will go as well.
Yeah, you can't do none of that shit. And fine, if they want to do that, whatever. But if that's not acceptable, how is this acceptable? How is explicitly drawn images of boys having anal sex? Why are you showing young boys how to have anal sex?
It's like, is it going to be a case of as well, like these kids in the playground on their lunch break and going to be like, oh,
let's give it a
try. Let's try what we've just seen in the book. We're being educated on it. It's normal. They're going to think it's normal to be doing things at that age.
This is not a homophobic rant. This is not a transphobic rant. All anybody is saying is that it's inappropriate.
Okay, so if we was to put it in context then, so let's say the book was showing boys and girls. Regardless,
it doesn't
kids
matter.
are still going to see it and want to do it. Yeah. If I sat on the sofa and started eating popcorn, my niece or nephew is going to want to eat popcorn. Because they've seen it. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you're 100%. Showing kids in school, oh, this is how you have sex and sex is normal, the young boys and girls in the playground might be like, oh, okay, well, we got taught to have sex. So do you know what I mean? It's weird. It's actually just weird.
If a child is old enough to identify the pictures depict a human being and, all the parts that make us up. Let's say it's not a gay book. Let's say it's about straight people. And the girl's opening her legs and showing the boy how to insert himself. Do you think it's possible that the kid might copy? We can't can't watch them everywhere they go,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes, you know, in my primary school, there were places that you could hide around the corner. The teacher's not always going to be there, and judging by the teacher wouldn't even care at this point.
But I just don't understand how this has even got into the schools in the first place. Who has looked at this, overlooked it and gone, yeah, this is a great idea, let's do it?
Some sickos have done. This is the problem with this whole inclusivity nonsense. They don't know where to draw the line.
Yeah.
You have to draw the line at children. Like, exercise some common sense here.
Yeah.
A normal, psychologically sound and stable mind would come to a conclusion that that specific material is nothing but sexually explicit.
Education, if democracy matters, we are the majority here in Dearborn. Let us draw the boundaries on appropriateness.
Every parent has a right to object to the things their kids are being exposed to. But there is a breaking point. And the breaking point is this: the fundamental existence of school is not to learn about sexual pleasure, not to learn about new sex acts. The fundamental purpose of school is to prepare our kids to be successful adults who can go off and have careers. And it is up to every parent to then teach their kids morality. It is out of the place for the school to do it, and I reject any notion that parents here are filled with hate or bigotry. The parents don't want their kids sexualized. If other people want to sexualize their kids, that's their business.
We're here just to talk about the books and the pornography.
The rights of the children.
I have to say, I looked up some of these books, and like you said, I mean, if you can't show this on the air, then it should not be in a 10-year-old's classroom.
If someone walked in to the local park and we're all sitting there and they whip out a book that is a how-to guide on how to penetrate a man or a woman, you would call the police on them. So why are we treating teachers differently? Who gave these teachers all this power?
In school, in secondary school even, when you're a bit older, they don't even teach you about basic life skills like mortgages, banks, credit cards, anything, but yet they want to teach 7-year-olds how to have sex.
You're investing so much time into teaching 7 to 10-year-olds how to have sex, but you don't want to teach us how to actually navigate the world. Things that we need to learn: how to do our taxes, how to run a successful business. Just navigate through the world. The things that we don't understand, that we have to learn as we stumble, you don't bother teaching them. You don't bother investing any time into any of those curriculums or creating them, but you want to do this. It's something that is the job of a parent. There's no rhyme or reason why this should be in school.
Absolutely none. I can't wrap my head around it, to be honest.
As a queer person who has always had to fight for their right to exist, I am sick and tired.
Girl is unhinged. What do you mean your right to exist? That's nonsense.
What, is she one of the people that's for it?
She's for it. She's for it.
Do you know
How can
what
you
it
be
is?
for this? I'm for your rights as a human being.
Because the issue is that they're all looking past the fact that we're dealing with 7-year-olds or young kids, and you're explicitly showing them sexual things of a sexual nature, and they're just focusing on feeling like they're being discriminated against. And but it's they're not seeing the overall concept and vision of it.
Yeah, is everything that makes you up as a person about your sexuality? Is that all there is to you? No one's denying your right to exist. You're a human being. You have the same rights as all of us, whether you're gay, lesbian, trans, pan, bi, non-binary, whatever. You have the same rights as us because you're a human being, whether we agree with what you do or not. And it's not for us to agree with what you do or not. It's your right to do with your body as you wish. The problem here is that you're putting this on children. And this whole thing is about sexuality. And sexuality is spoken about at an age-appropriate time. It's not spoken about with children. The same way that you don't go and show a kid a documentary about Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean, would you do that? Would you put Jeffrey Dahmer on in front of a 10-year-old?
I just don't know what more they want, because so much is being done and included now. Like, I heard that the new Buzz Lightyear movie, Buzz kissed a boy or something, and it's like...
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, but that's what I got told. And it's like, things are being implemented everywhere. It's why do you have to take it to the extremes of
But even
young
that,
kids?
that's ridiculous. Like Buzz Lightyear kissing a boy, who gives a shit? Like, the point here is that these people deserve to be respected as human beings, and as they should be. We respect everybody as a human being, but that doesn't mean that you force things on children, and it doesn't mean that every area of your life needs to be painted all over the place for everyone to see. Nor do they have to like it. Everyone is allowed to have their own opinions. As long as you're allowed to do as as you please, without hurting others, without showing explicit images to children, what is the problem?
But that's my point, is I feel like everything is so included and accepted now. I don't know what more
There
can
needs to be
done.
pushback. There needs to be pushback now. I agree with anyone in the LGBT community if you're talking about the rights of a human being. They deserve the same rights as all of us. And they do have the same rights, at least over in the West. In other countries, that's another topic, and we can talk about that. But in this country, a gay man is to be treated in the eyes of the law the same as me. He's to be paid the same as me if we're doing the same job. He has the same rights as I do, as does a trans person. But that doesn't mean that you can just make things up as you go along. It doesn't mean that you can force your ideology on people that don't want it. These Muslims are being very respectful. They just don't want their kids being indoctrinated with this bullshit. And that's what it is. It's bullshit when you're forcing that on kids. It would be the same level of bullshit if there was a bunch of books in school that had people chopping people's heads off for 10-year-olds. Like, why would you put that in there? Is that age appropriate?
It's completely going against their religion, because Muslims, if I'm not mistaken, is no sex before marriage.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No sodomy either.
Depending on what age you're getting married at, that's way too young to even be informing these kids of sex.
So you're going to be inclusive now? You're going to respect the Islam? You're going to respect the wishes of these Muslim people? You can't use the excuse that they're straight and white. These are people of color, of a different religion. You have to respect their religion. And if their children are going to your school, you're going to disrespect them because you're so in yourself that you think what you're doing is right for their kids when they're not even of the same faith. I mean, America is a Christian country, right? Largely a Christian country. But there are other faiths that live there, and they also deserve to be respected. So if they don't want their kids learning any of this stuff, and they don't want it in the schools, then just respect that. Why do you feel the need to force your ideas on them? Just teach the kids what they're supposed to be taught. It's not hard. Are you really racking your brain that you can't wait to talk about gender ideology or teach kids how to have sex instead of just teaching them maths?
This issue comes up in Dearborn, but it's the same issue we're seeing in Grand Rapids. We're seeing it in Kalamazoo. We're seeing it in Northern Michigan. We're seeing it everywhere where school boards think that they can ignore the rights of the parents in terms of how their children are educated.
Like I said, this is not a bigoted thing. This is not a transphobic thing. This is not anything against the LGBT community. Said multiple times in this video, they have the same rights as us and as they should. They're people, they're human beings, they deserve to be respected. But not all of your ideas need to be respected because they're ideas. And the idea that you think it's okay to have these books in classrooms when we can't even show them on YouTube. We have to blur them on YouTube. They will be age restricted on YouTube. So how are they appropriate for a classroom of 10-year-olds, but on a website that is mostly populated by teenagers and adults, it's not appropriate? How does that make any sense whatsoever? If someone can make sense of that for me, by all means, write in the comment section.
That's the thing, just the whole thing doesn't make sense.
Yeah, make it make sense for me, and then we can have that conversation, but I don't think you can, and I think you know that. No one's denying your right to exist. Anyone that would deny another human being's right to exist is probably a bad person. So no one is denying that. No one's saying that you don't deserve to have rights. But everyone is saying this ain't age appropriate. So